Quit your job, they said, so that you too could be in your fucking bathrobe drinking fucking coffee at 1 in the afternoon. Yeah, before you go doing that and telling your boss to fuck off and die, you might want to watch this video. Just saying. Welcome to another lovely Scott the Truck Driver podcast here on DLIVE, and this video is going to YouTube. So, and before we get into the topic of quitting your job, a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I did it, and I tried to make a go at a few things, had some successes, had some failures, and so I want to go through the fine print because I did receive a pertinent email to this subject that inspired me to do this particular video. But the other thing that inspired me to do this video, because I've been very busy, I've had some financial issues, so I've had to work a lot more, usually late at night, and I've been trying to build up my income, which means I can't produce videos when I'm doing that because I don't make enough fucking money at it. So, a possible solution, if you want more videos, when I receive at least $20 in my tip jar, I'll make a video for that day. That's how much I need to make, because YouTube ain't fucking doing it anymore. If I'm going to take extra time, I'll still do the videos when I have free time. But if you want me to not go make money doing something else, then that's a solution to do it. It could be like 20 of you give $1 or one of you give 20. That's kind of the thing if you want me to spend time making videos. But we'll get into why that has to be a thing shortly, because I get the questions a lot. But this video, which I wasn't even going to make today, by the way, is brought to you by, if I can find the email here, it's brought to you by where is it? Alright, there it is. JWR Cats, who contributed to me, only contributor this month. So thank you, JWR Cats. This video is for you. And it's also brought to you by Brent, who didn't sponsor, but did ask the question that we're going to be discussing. His name is Brent. Hi, Scott. I'm a fan and I appreciate your videos. My question is, how do you feel about completely changing careers? I'm thinking of leaving a high-stress job, $75,000 a year job, to a low, no-stress position paying $32,000 a year. I know it sounds crazy, but work is such a big part of life and I hate living for the weekends. Amen there. Of course, the financial impact will add stress. Any thoughts or advice would be greatly appreciated. Well, I know that some of you know that I quit my $60,000-ish a year job in trucking for that very reason. I wanted to be able to experience my life. I wanted to do meaningful work, even though that work, especially the YouTube part, doesn't pay very well. Like, we're talking less than minimum wage in some cases. YouTube and shit. Can you tell I'm a little bitter with YouTube's ad revenue policies and their censorship and their bullshit? But anyways, without turning this into one of those videos, there are certain things, it's a very subjective question, because lifestyle is very important to whether or not you can quit your job. If you're in debt up to your fucking eyeballs, and you have a huge mortgage, and you got a brand new fucking car in the driveway with the car payments, and you got credit cards up the ass and student loans up the ass, you're pretty much fucked. You can't just quit your high-paying job. You need to make enough money to pay those things down. So there is a certain amount of preparation that needs to happen prior to, and I did so, and when I first started this journey, I lived in my truck, which brings up an interesting point that someone else made on my YouTube comments. Let me bring that up. And sorry, I'm a little slow right now. I literally did just wake up. So this is on my pros and cons of living in a truck video. That's around the time that I first started getting into minimalism and living in the truck full time, and by then I was banking shit tons of money because I'd already gotten rid of my debt. I still have a little bit of debt that I carry, but nowhere near what I used to. Peter Hunt, great video. Every single point you made I've been thinking about for almost 5 years. Another person that's getting sick of the grind. Last winter, it all came to a head. In 2 weeks, I get my van and trade for comfort for freedom. 2 minutes into this video, I'd like to subscribe. Thank you so very much. I too drive truck, and almost half my income went to rent and utilities. Fuck that. And so there's some preparation, and we're going to get into all of this in this video, how it's been from my journey over the past, it's approaching 2 years. In September, it'll have been 2 years since I quit driving truck. And who knew that it would just be so, it's been quite the journey. What did I get for the money I gave up, I guess, would be the ultimate question. And it's not just about waking up in your fucking bathrobe, not having to get up and grind in the morning, and that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. What's up, Double Delta? The point I'm trying to make is it's about time. Time is your most valuable asset, and we give it away, and we're encouraged to give it away so freely. Let me put this cam up. We're encouraged to give it away so freely in, our culture, in the American culture anyways. And I think in a lot of cultures that are capitalistic in nature are also on the same path. Time is our only asset that we have, that 100% can be taken away at any moment. We have very little control over how much time we get over the course of our lives. We can try and nudge it a little. Thanks for the follow, Jody Michelle. We can try and nudge it a little bit here and there, but ultimately time is important. So I, for 14 years in trucking, was giving away all my time for a paycheck. A great deal of that time, I had my own apartment that I was never in, with a bunch of shit in it that I never got to use. Yet I kept paying, plucking away at it. Here you go. There's my money. There's another 3, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days of my life just to pay for that shit that I didn't need. And it took I was pretty much, I had to have every fucking new gadget. I had to do all kinds of things. I went into debt early on. I went bankrupt early on in my life. I've been, I chased this American dream that was fed to me throughout my childhood, being a child of the 80s. And, when malls were a thing, before Amazon, before cell phones, before all of this shit. And consumerism was just pretty much, along with the shitty American diet and all the bad habits that, we formed throughout our lives, they started out then. My value system was fucked and always was. So if you're going to quit your job, you need to address some things first. You don't just say, oh, fuck this, I'm going to go work this less stressful job, fuck you, and then you end up with your debts starting to pile up, and then you've transferred your stress from your job to your life. No, you stick it out with the high-paying job and start working towards getting over to where you can survive on less money. It's not an overnight process. It took me years to prepare for this. First and foremost, you need to get out of debt. Second, start downsizing. Be a minimalist. Because the more minimalist you are, the more of your time you're taking back. You're taking control of that time. Dave 101, finding the proper balance between making enough money to live and enjoying your life is in the same process. It's very fine. And that's kind of what it is. It's you know, it should be a 50-50 split, the work and life balance. Unless that work is fulfilling for you. Now, I'm not talking to people that love their job. If you love your job, you're making fuck tons of money, more power to you. But I'm here to tell you that that wasn't me, and that's not a lot of people, as we can see from the emails. You know, it's not something that everyone can do. And we're going to go through a couple of other people that have done this on YouTube, just to kind of give you an idea. But it requires preparation, and by no means should you just watch some fuckhead on YouTube saying, "Hey, I quit my job and I feel great," because there's a whole bunch of preparation involved. When I first quit this job, I was relying heavily on being a YouTuber, and it was working. I was able to survive. But not everything that you're going to do to make money outside of that job is going to necessarily be successful. Now, it sounds to me what Brent is saying is that he's going to quit his high-paying, high-stress, high-time intensive probably job to go to a lower stress, you know, show up, do your grind, you know, for about half the amount of money and probably half the amount of time. Or go down to work part-time. Or in my case, I've become kind of a juggler of income streams between, you know, Uber, between working part-time at a bar, between being a YouTuber, between being a photographer, videographer. I pretty much have become a master of my own time for the most part. I'm still driven to do things to make money. How much I have to make is entirely dependent on my lifestyle. So, get rid of your debt. Change your lifestyle. You don't need everything. It might be nice to have a big pile of shit in the corner that you might someday want. I'm here to tell you, when you start to change your value system, you get more of your time back, and then you open yourself up for much more meaningful and powerful experiences, flexibility. You give yourself more time to enjoy relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, which isn't my big thing. But you have to... Oh, and Dave 101 just made a good point. Don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about your life. It is your fucking life. I don't care what anyone thinks about how I live my life now. This is it. This is me. And if they don't like me, well, they can fuck off. It's really that simple. You know, trying to impress your friends and have better Facebook posts and, you know, be able to Instagram story your way to saying, hey, my life is great, is not really saying your life is great. In fact, your need to do that is probably just you trying to convince yourself that you have a good life. If you really have a good life, you don't give a shit what anyone else has to say about it because you have a good life. I'm not saying my life is great since I've quit, but I am saying I am 20,000 times happier than I was making $60,000 a year, grinding out 70 hours a week in that truck, never being home, never getting to do the thing. You know, it's not about not being home. I like traveling. I like doing touristy shit. I like seeing shit. But I never got to really experience that in the truck. I went from Walmart to truck stop to rest stop, and it was miserable, and I hated it. And, you know, I'm thinking of reviving some of my old videos here on DLIVE and doing a reaction to my really old videos, like prior to this YouTube channel, where I go over a lot of this, you know, just to show what kind of an asshole I was. Thank you, 7David9, for the ice cream. We're pretty close to my first DLIVE paycheck here, so there's that. Thanks a lot. Sorry, I gotta let the Tutti fucking Fruity go by. But you know, it's important to really evaluate what makes you as a person happy before you go and up and quit your job and thinking that it's going to be so much better, because there's a high degree of failure. Thanks, Blue Loon, for the ice cream. So yeah, I had to turn the Tutti Frutti down while I make my point. So you need to really take care of get your house in order. And it took me, I want to say 2 or 3 years just to get the debt down. Then I started throwing shit out. I started donating shit. I ended a relationship where I lived in a house with somebody. I was renting her house from her. And, you know, I had this huge house I was renting. She wanted me to continue to rent it after we broke up. And I was like, not so much. I threw out so much shit. I left behind a bunch of shit that, you know, I gave her essentially and her family. I said that's enough is enough. And that's when I moved into the truck. And then I started to realize that while I did kind of downsize, I missed the point of minimalism. I didn't get any time in exchange. I was still in the truck. I was still working constantly. Yes, I had fuck tons of money. I could go and buy all kinds of fucking gadgets. And in fact, I would argue that this is how I launched up my photography business into being kind of a nice income stream, is because I was able to invest in gear because I had no debt, lots of income, but no time yet. And I didn't enjoy my days, and my boss was pissing me off. And, you know, I had been thinking about getting out of trucking and piling up money and so on and so forth, but then my boss pissed me off to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a go at it. And I jumped in without a safety net. You know, I had maybe $1,000 in the bank account when I quit my job. So, you know, that's what we have to do. Paul Bain Jr., we keep stuff for memories. I find I take a good photo of these items. It's easier to get rid of, like an ugly-ass pair of bookends I made. I have... That's a part of minimalism I might be failing at. I have 2 hard drives full of photography and video, and it's piling. I'm working on my 3rd full hard drive because I keep an archive of everything. That's... You know, partially for business. If YouTube were ever to delete me, I'd still have all my videos. But another part of that is digitally, I'm failing as a minimalist. But it doesn't cost me that much. It's like $120 for a decent sized hard drive, and then it's there. And I have needed to go back and get into those things. But as far as physical stuff, I pay a very low amount of rent for a room that is maybe double my living space of being in a truck. I have a pull-out love seat that I sleep on. A little bit uncomfortable, but you get used to it after a while, especially when you burn the candle at both ends. You'll sleep like a fucking baby. I have about a week's worth of clothes. I often wear the same fucking shit over and over again. Sometimes I'll, you know, alternate between 2 different outfits for the week, and then I only have 1 load of wash to do that week. Thank you, Mr. Humpty. You guys are really being generous. And I noticed that Blue Loon donated too as well. So I'll turn the Tutti Frutti back up so I don't miss anybody's contribution. You guys are really helping me out today. I appreciate it. Thanks for the follow, Jay Brink. There we go. Now you guys are gonna go crazy with the love. Thank you, Double Delta. All right, let's see here. All right, sorry, I got distracted. Okay, so I had gotten fed up with my trucking job, but I had done the prep. I had already downsized. I had and I'm able to live in this room. I have all the gear I need to do my YouTube job. I have all the gear to do my... Thanks, Paul Bain, for the ice cream. You guys are on top of things today. Wow, that's awesome. I had all of these things lined up. I quit my job. I got into YouTube almost full time. Actually, it was more than 40 hours a week. So yeah, I would say, but I was enjoying the work. and it was fulfilling, and I was able to meet my income needs. But I have goals now that I want to travel more. I want to do road trips. I want to get out there and experience more than what my hometown in New York State has to offer. So I've started to work financially on being able to do that, and that involves piling up money so that I can go do that. I'm into poker, as many of you know, so I'd like to get into those cheap tournaments and stuff, and I recently had a very big $25, 25K tournament I was in. These are all things that I enjoy doing, that I like spending my time. I occasionally want to sit down and veg out and play a fucking video game or something, Whereas when I was a trucker, I had to pick one of those activities to do on my couple of days off every couple of weeks, and that just wasn't good enough for me. I wanted more time. And another thing that, it's hard for me to talk about, but my stepdad passed away from cancer. And he spent a lot of his days, his time playing video games, ironically. Even as old as he was still playing Xbox quite a bit. And as his cancer progressed, I think he came to the realization that he was wasting his time. He gave it away. He gave the Xbox away, and he didn't play games anymore. Between games and TV, he was spending all his last remaining moments wasting time in his essence. And I noticed that. I could see it in his face as the days wore on. He knew that it was coming. He knew that, he had hopes, but I could tell that it was starting to settle into him that he shouldn't be wasting his time. And that kind of stuck with me. That's kind of what got me into that live in the truck moment in this whole minimalism journey that I've been on, is watching somebody's last days and going, I can't have my days be that way from now until then, because I was essentially doing a lot of the same things that he was doing. So it inspired me to step outside of my comfort zone, to try a bunch of new things, to really work on things, and to try and do the things that are meaningful to me, and to enjoy my life. And so much has happened since I quit the job. Thanks for the diamond. Yes, trucking pretty much takes up all your time. 7 David 9. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to say my life has been so much better, but I'm broke as fuck. I'm essentially making a minimum wage income. I work a lot. I spend a lot of time. I Uber here. I volunteer for people that don't want to work at the bar. I do all of these things. But I'm happier on a lower income with a lower overhead than I was with money coming out of my ass as a trucker. And so many truckers get sucked in to that getting that huge paycheck, giving up. You're giving up more in return for that money than you're getting in return. It's really that simple. You need a return on your time investment, and that return should bring you happiness. And I can tell you, buying new shit, that gives you a moment of dopamine. Then the shit goes in the closet or on the shelf, and then you gotta go buy new shit to get more dopamine. I became, of course, researching addiction and all the other things I've had to do for my channel. I'm aware of that. I know that I get a dopamine hit if I buy a new gadget. And then I also know the motherfucker sits in the closet too long. And I constantly evaluate as a minimalist this shit. I busted out my VR shit, which has been on the chopping block for my minimalism for a while. But I did it here on DLIVE, and I did a VR thing. And I'm probably still going to try and do those streams every once in a while. But this was something I bought when I was trucking, and it was, I don't want to say, neighborhood of almost $1,000 for VR, and I've used it maybe once in the past year. ironically here on DLIVE. Think of if I still had that grand. How much time did I have to give up? That's a week's pay, roughly, as a truck driver. That's a week of my life I gave for this fucking thing to sit on a table right here in front of me, looking right at it. Is it worth it? Was it worth it? No. And you need to constantly, as a minimalist, evaluate that. You need to be like, do I need all of this shit? Do I need a huge fucking house for like 2 or 3 people if you're in a family, or 1 person if you're not? Do I need a big fucking apartment? How much time am I going to spend in that motherfucker? Is that something I want? Do I want to stay in that apartment? These are all questions you got to ask yourself. All of these questions before you go in and you give your boss the finger and you say, fuck you, man, I'm not dealing with your shit anymore. You have to answer all of these questions. It has to be, what is your lifestyle like? What makes you content and happy? If you're there and you're already working and you love your job, then by all means, that you're there. You made it. You're getting a return on your time investment. But I find that so many people are miserable with their jobs. They hate their life. They are constantly in pursuit of a better life, doing whatever they can, playing shit tons of lottery tickets or gambling their face off in the casino, or all of these things that people do to try and better their lives, to get a windfall because they're not happy. You can chip away at it, but it requires changing your values, not going into debt, and changing your lifestyle to a more balanced point to where your time that you spend earning money is worth twice what it was when you were spending all your time. What I'm saying is when I was making $60,000 a year, that money was a lower value in terms of time and happiness, whereas making minimum wage income for the year, I get a lot more for my dollars. My time spent yields twice the return in contentment and happiness and fulfillment than I ever did as a truck driver. That is what I'm talking about. You're investing that time, and you should get a return on that investment. That's kind of my point. And if you're in a job you hate that takes up all of your time, and then you're using it to pay for shit that you barely use or you don't need, you are not getting a return on that investment. And you need to restructure your values and your life in a way to where you're getting more for your time, for the time you spend working, than the time you put into it. And it has to be worth it. And, I've gone to St. Lucia. I've done all of these things. And I've had numerous opportunities that, last summer was great. I got to spend a lot of time with my friend. Thanks again, Blue Loon, for 2 more ice creams. Yeah, thanks. I've gotten, sorry, right away for the 2D fucking fruity. Alright. I can turn that down. Alright. So, I've gotten a return on my time investment. I feel like I only have to work when I want to do something. It's not, instead of constantly working and constantly piling up money and not doing shit, now I'm like, well, I want to do this. So this is how much time I need to spend, and I have direct control over it. If this is expensive, then I need to invest a lot of time here, and then I ask myself, is this thing I want to do or buy or whatever worth this amount of time that I have to put in to make the money? For me right now, that's traveling and road tripping. I've got some trips planned, going to Texas, trying to get to Yosemite. That's going to be an expensive one. So I'm working towards piling up the income necessary for those trips, and then I get those trips, the time, and I don't have to worry about my boss. I could take 3 fucking weeks, 4 weeks. I could take a month out there because I'd have the money to support my lifestyle. I'd be sleeping in my car as a minimalist. I'd be, cheap camping, backpacking, because backpacking's free. You go out on the trail You might have to pay a park fee at some of the national parks, but you can find trails all over the country that are essentially free. You throw your backpack on, you're pretty much just paying for food and water at that point, and then you go out and you can camp out there as long as you can survive. These are all things that I've learned to enjoy and do that cost very little money, which means I have to spend a lot less time doing the work, and I still get the benefit of the life experience and the happiness, between the wilderness fasts that I've been able to do, which were impossible on trucking, the backpacking I've done, the time spent with very good friends, especially last summer, and I'm noticing that they're busy this summer. They're working, they're working a lot. And, that's why you haven't seen a lot of videos with Christy and Mr. Anderson and all of them, because they are busting their ass. And that's their life. That's their choice. I was fortunate to have that last summer experience where we all got out pretty regularly and spent a lot of time adventuring and doing things. I still want to do those things, and I still do them. I don't do them as much this year because I'm trying to spend that extra time so that I can eventually get out and spend some time on the road. So, what it boils down to is you have to, I realize I'm talking a lot with my hands. It's distracting me seeing it on the fucking screen right now. You have to balance. You have to really take stock of your life. Here's some tips on how to do it. First of all, you got out of debt. Second of all, you downsized your life. Now let's get into the downsizing part a little bit. You really gotta just start taking inventory. One of the methods I think that goes. Thanks, Paul, for sorry, you got me all flustered here. Thanks for another diamond. Yosemite, there goes another hard drive. Thank you. I'm gonna get to Yosemite. If I don't get there by the fall, it'll be spring next year. But I'm working on it. No, what was I saying? Okay. So, when you're downsizing, you have to kind of start taking stock of just about everything that's a material possession and start whittling it down. And once you whittle it down far enough, then you got to take stock of your living situation and how much space do you really need, because the more real estate you take up, the more of that money that you have to spend to maintain that space. Now, if you own your house, well, congratulations. You're still paying taxes, but it's probably a good investment for square footage. But for those of us that were not ever fortunate enough to do that, or didn't want to own a house because they were never there, we're paying through the ass for square footage. So if you can get down to a roommate situation is ideal as a minimalist, where you're renting a room for probably a fraction of your local rent costs. And then, especially if you're never home. Now, if you're home a lot, like all the time, then you might want a little bit more space. But even me, I'm home a lot, but my space has become like so efficient. I got my computer, I got my TV, I got all my shit literally surrounding me that you're, looking at me on this camera on. And this is it. I move from here and I have the fold out couch. During the day, it's folded up. I sit in it. It's like a living room in here. At night, the bed comes out. I go to bed. And it's making your life efficient in the parts that don't matter to you as much. And if you don't have as much shit, you don't need as much square footage to store your shit. That's the key. And once you get your, because this is something you can't always control your income. You can't always control how much money you're going to make. But you can control how much you spend, how efficient your living situation is. And I'm not talking about the classic minimalism, I'm in a room with a laptop, a desk, and a chair, and and I have 100 items to my name. That's not what I'm talking about when I talk about minimalism. I'm talking about changing your mindset, your value structure, all with the goal of getting more return on your time investment. And when you're spending time doing something you don't want to do because you're getting a return on that, you want that to be a good investment. You don't want to spend shit tons of time doing something you don't want to do and then only get a little hair of return to where I get to go on vacation once a year. I get a week paid vacation every year. That's what I got on trucking. 5 days. 5 days paid vacation, and it was minimal pay. It wasn't anything like real trucker pay. So I bust my ass, and then I get my you know what I did on my 5 days? I was so exhausted, I didn't do shit. I went home and played fucking video games on my 5 days vacation a year. Every once in a while, I'd go camping during that. And thanks for the follow, Blue J77. And 70 hours a week for 14 years of my life. And I don't have stories to tell other than road stories as far as experiences. I've had so many failed relationships as a result of the amount of time and being away from home that trucking did. I can't even tell you 100% all the losses that in terms of life happiness that I got. I can't even quantify it. I definitely took a huge loss in my time investment versus what I got in return when I became a truck driver for 70 hours a week for 14 years. It was one of the most monumental, biggest mistakes I ever made. I wish somebody had been talking about this shit back in the 90s. I didn't hear about it until a couple years ago. About 4 years ago, I first came across minimalism. And at first I was like, fuck that shit. I'm be in a room with 100 items. No. And I'm not that purist minimalist. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always thinking, is this thing I want to do or this object that I want to purchase going to give me a return on my time investment? And in some cases, I try and double that up. Like if I buy a new item or a new piece of equipment, it generally has more than one purpose. Like, yes, I'll get some entertainment out of it. Yes, I'll get to do these trips. And then, yes, I can make money with it. So a lot of the purchases I've made since leaving trucking were all investments in being able to produce better videos, being able to take better pictures for clients, and make myself marketable, build my skill set. There's times where I'm not making money, but I am learning new skills to increase my income stream and diversity. Now, that's another thing that you want to think about if you're quitting your job. You want a diversity of income streams. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because as we can tell from my YouTubing, that doesn't always pan out. You don't always get there. So, it's a balancing act. So I would say, if you're going to quit your job, you really need to work towards it. And it's not something that you can say, oh, I got there and you're good. You're always going to be thinking about this balance. And it's healthy to think about, because you could slip back into old habits, and I've come close a few times. And then there's times when there's some things that linger a little longer. But it's harder for the things to linger longer and not grab your attention when you're in a small space. There's not a lot of places I can hide shit in here, so if I'm holding on to something a little too long, I'm going to be staring at the motherfucker going, look at all, what else could be occupying that space? Can I get some of my time investment? There's another part of downsizing. Can you get some of your time investment back by selling that item? And I've done that. And I've usually done that for gear. I will sell one piece of gear to discount me on upgrades on another piece of gear. But like I said, that's all stuff that makes money for me. So not only am I getting my time back, but I'm also getting time freed up because I make a profit on these things. For example, Uber. I hate driving Uber. I'm not a fan of driving Uber. It's a pain in the ass. But I own my car. So, And it's a reliable car, doesn't break down. It gets 50 miles to the gallon. It's also my road trip car. It has tinted windows so I can car camp. You know, it serves several purposes, and I'm already probably in the neighborhood of $5,000 or $6,000 in Uber that I've earned with that car. And the car is was worth 15. It's probably worth more like 12 now. So I'm ahead of the depreciation, you know. And I worked my way up to that car too. The car prior to that was a $1,600 car I was driving Uber with. You know, and I got 3 times my investment on that car. Before that, I had my shitty pickup truck that I got a good 10 years out of before it fell apart. You know, and so these are all things that you can do. You got to think about how much time you're spending doing something you don't want to do. And are you getting you should get at least twice that in life experiences. There's times when my overhead gets so low that I don't have to work. I still do, but I can just sit around and tread water for a while doing things that I want to do. That hasn't happened lately. But early on, there were times when I could go off on a 5-day fast without thinking about, oh, is this going to hurt me? You know, but the only reason I have to work more now is I'm trying to build for things I want to do in the future, in which case I will be able to. I'll be able to get the time off I need from my part-time job because I fill in so much for people. I'll be able to take this big, huge chunk of time, which when I was trucking was impossible. The boss would just be like, no, I can't. It's too long. You know, God forbid that their fucking numbers drop a little bit. You know, it's not something that they're prepared to deal with. And also do your homework. You know, I say this a lot as, you know, a fasting coach and keto coach, you know, and health in general. Do your homework. Don't just take my word for it. Start scouting out different people. Thanks for the lemon, Glusk. Start going on YouTube and just typing in minimalism, quit your job. See what's already there. And we're going to go over that a little bit here in the stream. But you just got to do these things to prepare before you walk in and give your boss the finger and tell him to eat a bag of dicks. That's pretty much what you have to do. And I literally did that. Well, I didn't say eat a bag of dicks, but there was definitely some swearing and yelling involved on my final day of trucking. And consequently, they kept me on the books for another year so that I could just walk right back in, grab a truck, and go. But I never did. I never got tempted to go back. There's probably one period where things were a little rough. It was around the time YouTube started to have its third apocalypse, where I was like, you know, I could just go in the truck and pile up money. But I immediately had some cool experience. I forget what it was. I think I was hiking. And I was like, you know what? That's a stupid fucking idea because I wouldn't have been able to do that. I wouldn't have been able to go on that particular hike that day. I wouldn't be able to do the things I want to do. Plus now I've kind of got, you know, my social life, my friends, my part-time job that I would have to give up, and I don't want to do that because, you know, I enjoy working there for the most part. There's times where I'm bitching. You know, there's times when working at the bar is not the greatest, where I got to deal with people's shit. But that's serving a purpose for me as well, because the more shenanigans I deal with at the bar, the less likely I am to drink. And I haven't drank. I'm sober. You know, if I had fuck tons of money coming out of my ass and I was miserable, what do you think I'd eventually crack and do? I would probably break down in some hedonic behavior to mask the fact that I hated the way I was living my life. And that's what I see a lot of people doing, self-medicating, because their life is, you know, shit. And they have to do all of these things, go shopping, go drinking, drugs, you know, pleasure, relationships, believe it or not, as far as romantic. You know, a lot of people put tons of stock into that as their form of happiness, and usually that's for me, that's been a bad investment each time I've done it. You put all this out for a couple of years in a relationship, and then it blows up in your face, and then you're worse off emotionally than you were before you went in. But it's so addictive that you keep doing it. We can get into the addiction transfer theory in another podcast, but Paul Bain Jr., do you have a budget for unexpected? I heard some people put 10% in a bank account. I generally pile up money. On average, I keep around $1,000 ready to go. Sometimes I dip into that. Sometimes I go over that. It depends on what's going on. But that's my ultimate goal. But for the most part, not really. I'm not saving for retirement, which is another thing, because I don't plan. I feel like I'm semi-retired now. If I want time, I see a lot of people, they retire and they don't do shit. And then they're kind of miserable because they're not doing shit, And then, my mother's retired and she goes and volunteers to work at the VA. So, I don't ever plan on fully retiring, as in I'm not doing anything to make money. I'm going to constantly be doing these things I'm passionate about, and they'll make me a little bit of money. That's it. And I just make a little bit of money doing videos. I make a little bit of money doing photography, videography. I've got a lot of different ways to make money. I can just take stock photos all day and get a little bit of money that way. There's all kinds of things that I can do that don't require me to retire 100%. So that's my retirement plan, by the way. Now, something physical could happen. I could get fucked and end up unable to do anything to make money. As long as I can talk, I think I can make money. I could do podcasts nonstop in that situation. And hopefully by the time something like that happens, I'll have enough, more wisdom to impart upon the world. Not that I'm thinking I'm some fucking sage here or some shit, but, obviously people like my podcasts or they wouldn't want me to do them. So I would continue to do that. If I can lift a camera, I'll still do that. Even if I'm working weddings and bar mitzvahs. As long as I can do the job, make the clients happy, I'll still do that. That's what I'm talking about for my retirement. So I don't feel the need to get a 401k. Now, here's a point. Here's another thing to think about, and this is important. Healthcare. Medical. I'm a veteran. I get free healthcare. I go to the VA, they patch me up, they charge me $20 and send me on my way. Thankfully, I'm healthy. It's another thing to worry about if you're worried about healthcare costs. Getting healthier is a minimalist approach to healthcare. Now, catastrophic things can happen, and you can get like a broken leg. You can get sick. This is why taking care of your health is important in this formula. If you're not healthy and you quit your $70-something thousand a year job to go down to make 32, you're going to have to worry about health care, especially if you're not healthy. If you're regularly sick, you're regularly going to the doctors, you're obese, you have metabolic syndrome, you've got diabetes, any of these concerns, your healthcare costs are going to be huge. And that's going to require more of your time, and that's a loss of time. Because you're not getting a return on any time you invest in having to take the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry's version of life just to lengthen your life. To me, that I have to be damn near dying to go into the fucking healthcare system. I mean, there has to be something that I just can't live with before I jump in there. That's me, not advising anyone to live that way, but healthcare is a solid point. And I've had people in the past when I've talked about minimalism go, well, what about healthcare? Early on, I gave 10 years of service to the military, and in return, I get a place where I can go get healthcare. That is and I think that was a fair return on the 10 years of time I invested in being in the military. So that's pretty much means I made a profit on time, and I didn't even know it. I wasn't minimalist back then. I was doing all kinds of debt shit. But the time I put in serving my country is returning, because I can tell you my healthcare costs would have been insane. They would have taken 3 to 5, I think it was 300-ish a month out of my trucking income for health insurance. And I didn't have to do it. Even during the Obamacare thing, I didn't have to do any of that. I was already covered by my VA coverage. So that's all I get. Now, I don't have dental, so my teeth are going to be fucked up, but they don't bother me. So far, that's been a return on investment. I clean them up best I can, take care of them as good as I can, but I haven't had to go to the dentist since I've been keto. It's weird how that works, isn't it? All these things are related. How you live your life, how you change your health, what your values are. These are all important to determine whether or not you got to work a fucking job you hate. And I see it is driving Uber. One of the great things that I enjoy about driving Uber is I get a snapshot of people's lives. Where they live, where they're going, what they're doing with their time, what they do for a living comes up pretty often, and what I do for a living comes up pretty often. I can't tell you how many times I've answered the "How do you like driving for Uber?" question. And I always answer the same way. I say it works for me, because I don't have to do it. I can do it when I need to or when I want to. I do it to support a lot of any extracurricular activities I do. If I want to go see a movie, I'll hop in and drive Uber for an hour, and lo and behold, movie's paid for. Look at that. If I need a tank of gas, I hop in there, and then I have gas for like a week. I can drive all kinds of places, like to the little very cheap hikes in the Adirondacks, where I can spend days of my time up there. These are all things to think about as you're trying to structure your life. So, if you're one of those people that clicked on this video that is like, I'm going to go quit my job tomorrow, it sounds great, do your preparation first. Try living the life, too, ahead of time. Try downsizing your life and making sure you're comfortable living that way before you quit your job. And that will also allow you to pile up a decent amount of money, and that'll just aid you going forward. So become a minimalist first, downsize first, get debt free first, and stay that way for a little bit. I got to experience it for a little bit as a trucker, and you'll start making some financial gains in preparation, but don't get caught up in it, because keep in mind, you're still not getting a return on your time investment. Yeah, you'll have a pile of money, but you're not spending it, and you're not spending it in meaningful ways, in ways that will increase your happiness. And to me, though, what increases happiness over pleasure, is time that you can spend with people and relationships, your social life, which is non-existent if you're working all the time, and also, being able to afford to go to places and do these various things that you will take with you the rest of your life. The experiences I've had since quitting my job, I will always have. I've pretty much doubled my time, what I got in return for my time investment. And these are things that will stick with me the rest of my life. Just the fact that not only am I flexible enough to say yes when people ask me if I want to do something, for the most part, I'm able to go, yeah, I can do that. I don't even hesitate in most cases. When a friend messages me and they're like, hey, you want to go do this? And I'll look at my calendar. Can I move this over there? Yep. Unless I have a client, or unless I have to work my 1 day a week at the bar, that's about all my committed time to where I can't be as flexible. I can still be flexible and get somebody to work, but You know, these are all... Sorry, I just noticed. First, I'll get to your question in a sec. Double Delta Zero. Do you ever get mistaken for Captain Spaulding? There is a reason that I have Captain Spaulding pop up when you do the tip. You know, it's a little inside joke. I've dressed up as Captain Spaulding. For those of you who don't know who Captain Spaulding is a character from a Rob Zombie movie, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. Great horror flicks. I'm a fan. And yes, I may look a little like Sid Haig, especially when I shave my head and bush my beard out a bit. You know, I've done it. But anyways, getting back.
You know,
there we go. There he is. Yeah. Tutti fucking fruity. Thanks again, Paul Bain, for another 5 ice cream, then another ice cream from Test Monkey. Thank you. Thank you all. You guys are awesome. But yes, I might look a little like Sid Haig. Maybe in his youth. So, yeah, there's that. So let's get into some of the other people that have talked about this. Some of the people I've watched when researching whether or not I should quit my job. I'm not going to play their whole videos, but we're going to react a little bit to it. And just... You know, it's something that, if at the very least, you can spend a little time when you're taking a shit, looking at your phone, to start following some of these people and seeing what they're doing with their lives, because you'll see some amazing advice and life-changing revelations that you absolutely should factor into your decisions. So let's get into and comment on... As I get set up here. And still got the Tutti fucking fruity going. So let's get in here. Can you do? Alright. And there we go. So exploring alternatives. I've been watching this. This is more of a van life, tiny house, minimalist type channel. I recommend following them. Seeing what it's like to live in smaller spaces, the way people go about it, is pretty badass. It's a good way to do minimalism, to learn what you need to do, and to get tips on how you want to live. If you want to be in a tiny house, I'd love to be in a tiny house. Unfortunately, they're out of my budget. I'm more of a car camper guy. If I wanted to get to that point where I lived in the Prius, I could do it. I know exactly how to do it. I'd rent a storage unit, put my shit in it. I wouldn't need to get the biggest storage unit either. And then I could live out of the Prius. Because I've slept in vehicles for 14 years. I know exactly what I got to do. I know how to take a shower. I know where to go to fucking, freshen up. I know where to go to eat. I know where to go. I know all of the shit I need to know that I could live in my Prius if I wanted to go extreme minimalist. But my rent is low, so I don't need to do that. But there's going to be points where I do it for periods of time so that I can travel. So there's that. But anyways, great channel. You should exploring alternatives is a great way to start really paying attention to this stuff. So thanks for the follow, by the way, Test Monkey 13A. I appreciate you. All right, so let's get started on this. So he quit an $80,000 a year job to work in a grocery store part-time. He was in a great position to set himself up for this too. Clearly had to pile up some money to get this started. But let's take a look.
I decided to simplify my life. For years, I was convinced that I had to make more money, and that money would bring me freedom and happiness. I was just scared of making a change. But as soon as I made...
And I'd say a good 60 to 70% of the motherfuckers I talk to are in that same trap. That same exact trap.
That change, I knew right away that it was the right thing to do, because I felt like this weight was lifted off my shoulders. I got a pretty cushy government job right after graduating from university. So I had all this money. I was single.
Apparently didn't have student loan debt. because a lot of the motherfuckers I see that I haul around, because Syracuse University and shit, they're in debt up to their eyeballs. There was one guy that got in my Uber. He's going to be a doctor. He says he has to work 12 years before he sees a return on his student loan investment, just to pay off his student loan. 12 years he's committed his life. 12 years of his life just to break even in terms of his student loan debt. So he's already spent the first, that's what debt is. You're spending your time ahead of time and essentially enslaving yourself to whatever it is you have to do for money when you're in debt. Get the fuck out of debt. There's no debt that is worth it. Plus, you're leaking extra time on interest and fees and penalties if you suck at paying your debts, and it's a nightmare. Don't go into debt. Save first to buy shit. Save first, then do the expensive shit. If you can't save enough, you can't fucking afford it, so you shouldn't go into debt. It's really simple, and I've been practicing this for years prior to becoming minimalist. I would save up for things instead of, obviously my credit was bad, so I didn't have to get into debt that much. So there's that. But I still carry a certain amount of debt. I still pay cell phone bill. That's probably my biggest debt. And yeah, don't do it.
I decided to buy myself a house. Bought a big house in the suburbs, 4-bedroom house, and my new obsession was buying furniture. And from there,
it's one dude. One dude does not need that much space, especially unless you're going to spend all of your free time in your house. Not worth it.
There, I sold my house and bought a condo, kept the same job, kept making more and more money.
More expensive per square footage.
Every year. For 11 years, I stayed in that job, and I had the golden handcuffs. I had the pension, the benefits. I was making $80,000 a year. I had all this freedom to go shopping. Money was a non-issue, so I could buy whatever I want. I could get all this.
And so he wasn't deriving pleasure from that. He wasn't even getting pleasure. A lot of people get pleasure when they do a purchase or they spend money going out to eat all the time, and that's a short-term, poor return on your time investment.
These toys.
He's already given, he said 11 years of his life?
These musical instruments, all these microfiber couches, but deep down, I wasn't happy. I would come home from work and I was miserable, and I dreaded going to work every day. So my job was super, super unfulfilling. It wasn't making me happy, being in an office 8 hours a day, just sitting there at a desk, staring at a computer.
Does this sound familiar to anybody?
Your screen. You're sitting down, you're not doing much, but it's actually exhausting. And I was trapped. I felt trapped. Once you get into...
I want to say New York. Let me see. It doesn't really say. He might go over it later in the video.
It's
only a 5-minute video, so we'll get through it.
Of buying things, you get addicted, and you feel like, you're stuck. And you have people around you telling you that, you're...
And this is, I believe this was one of the videos early on in my, where I'd already started downsizing. But that's what inspired me is, to decide to leave living in the truck to going to really just getting out of that time sink to where, I'm not going to make as much money, but I'll get a lot more bang for my buck, by changing my situation, my time, my downsizing. When I combine all of that, my dollar goes a hell of a lot farther than it did when I was trucking. And I can tell you, being on the road as a trucker is a very expensive proposition.
Set for life. And it would be crazy to leave this job. Like, why would you leave this job? You're nuts. You're set. I flipped out. I just flipped out one day and I realized, this is not making me happy. And I made some changes.
I kind of flipped out when I quit my job too.
And what did it for me is a silent retreat for 10 days.
In Test Monkey, I just wanted to address your question a little bit further. That does matter. where you live and should factor into any changes that you're going to make. If you're living in San Francisco, you're going to have a fucking hard time doing this. You know, you're going to have to live in your vehicle, guaranteed. The price per square footage in some places means you can't do this there. You have to go somewhere where you can survive. If you're in New York City, we're talking you're living in a closet and still paying like $1,000. You know, where you live is an important part of this. And if where you live is too pricey to do this, it might be time to move. Now, there's other things that may be holding you there. I understand that. But that is a very good point that I wanted to bring up, is where you live is a 100% big factor. Thankfully, Syracuse is a relatively depressed area, so it's fairly cheap to live here. You could live here even if you could even get a cheap apartment for $500 a month here in Syracuse. Of course, it's not going to be the best place to live, but you can find it. And if you're doing roommate situations, last I checked, it was $300 to $400, and I've got a better deal than that, so I'm ahead. But even if I didn't have that the deal I have now, $300 to $400 ish is about the average for roommate situations. And that, you know, you can shop around and find a pretty good roommate deal in terms of how much square footage you get and what amenities you have access to, that kind of stuff. These are all things to consider. So where you live is 100% a factor in determining this. But if you're willing to go the distance and live in a vehicle, that changes dramatically. You could live in San Francisco in a vehicle. You know, you could live, well, New York City would be a pain in the ass for parking and tolls, but, you know, there's places where vehicle dwelling, van life, as we like to call it in the minimalist community, is a thing. Now, I know that's not for everybody. You have to, I'm used to that kind of shit because I was a trucker for so many years. I'm used to living in a vehicle, so it comes natural to me. It's not even a thing to think about. I could do it no problem. Wouldn't even break a sweat. Know where to park, know everything I need to do. But that's not for everybody. So you got to think in terms of lifestyle. That's the subjective part. What are you willing to give up that doesn't hold a lot of value to you? You know, in order to get something that you value more. And generally, that's time, life experiences, and freedom. Freedom being worth a lot. Having the freedom to do what the fuck you want to do. That is probably the most valuable thing you'll get if you do this. You know, it is what it is.
Just did a lot of soul searching, and I realized, yeah, this can't go on. I quit my job.
And I'm willing to guess his $80K job didn't get him as far if he's living downtown in this area. Just looking at how, you know, congested it is.
Put the condo up for sale, and I just walked away. I was super scared, but I knew I had to change my life if I was gonna.
And there's another thing that you can think about. Maybe you don't want to ever vehicle dwell. How do you get around? How often do you have to get around? There's a lot of great things that we've done technology-wise. You know, it's cheap to go to Uber. If you only need to travel or run around town once a week, you probably will save a shit ton of money by not owning a vehicle. They just announced here that they're having this little e-bike thing where you can, it's like an app that you can rent an e-bike, and there's different hubs all over the city. They just announced. I haven't tried it yet. I'm planning on trying it. And you can just e-bike. There's like 40-mile range on these little e-bikes. You know, and you can do all your running around town on one. You know, and the weather's good, and it's still cheap. Or you could just buy an e-bike and, you know, efficiently, when you're running errands, you know, that don't require a vehicle. That'd be the way to go. There's all little things that you can do to make it more efficient so that your time investment, the money you need to make, that you spend it as efficiently as possible. Because if you're as efficient as possible, you do not have to give as much time to making money. And as you can see, he's riding his fucking bike.
You know, happy. And looking back,
and that's probably he's enjoying that. I've bicycled, I've mountain biked, I've done all kinds of shit, and I can tell you it's fun. You know, sometimes it's not fun when the weather's shit, but he's probably enjoying that more than he would a car ride around town.
I have no regrets, 0 regrets whatsoever.
And it sounds a lot like what I've been saying, right? I don't regret quitting.
It was the best move I ever made in my entire life. And now I work 3 days a week in a grocery store.
And, you know, even if you can't make money doing something you're passionate about, you can still lower the requirements for doing something that you might not enjoy.
I have a lot less money, but I have a lot more time. A lot more time to do the things that I love, spend time with people I love, do a lot of, you know, personal work and personal growth kind of stuff, which is really important to me. And that's what makes me happy. So I have less money, but, you know, so that means you have to simplify your life. So I got myself a super small apartment. It's easy to take care of. I bike to work. I love biking. It's the cheapest way to travel.
That's a lot bigger than what I live in.
And, you know, because I cut all these expenses, now I'm able to work only 3 days a week.
And I'd say that is a good amount of space for one person. Obviously, if there's 2 people, you might need a little hair more, but even then, you could probably live comfortably 2 people in that space if you're in a relationship or whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be so expensive to live. It doesn't. Dave 101, from 80K down to under 15K, he probably saved $1 million while he was working. I disagree, Dave. Given where the area and the lifestyle he was leading, he was probably paycheck to paycheck. At 80K, a condo downtown, I can tell you, even here in Syracuse, you're not able to do that at 80K. At 60K, I couldn't do that here in Syracuse. And our downtown sucks compared to a lot of places. So I would say no, he did not have the chance to save. He probably did not prep a lot. He said he just got fed up. I didn't hear him say he prepared to do this. He sounds like he just leapt, you know, and probably took whatever savings he had to get started and probably broke even. I leapt as well, and I didn't have much in the way of savings when I did it. You should probably fucking prepare. You're going to have an easier go at it if you prepare and build up some savings, you know. And it should also be part of the planning phase to figure out your expenses, your budget. How much do you need every month? And evaluate when you're downsizing. That's the first place you do. You take a good stock of your life, how much it costs you to live the way you do, and then you start making changes that can lower that number to a more manageable figure. And then try it out. Like I said earlier, try it out, you know, living it for a while before you quit your job to make sure that that's good enough for you. And that's subjective. I can't answer that for you, and neither can any other minimalist. What do you value? I would say there's things you can do to change your values, but it usually takes some kind of life trauma, like the one I mentioned, to really make you think, to really make you want to change the way you are. And, you know, stress is a big factor too. I am definitely lower stress. I'm not saying I'm stress-free, but I do have a lower amount of stress. Thankfully, my diet and lifestyle also lowers my anxiety levels, because the stress would trigger that anxiety to no end. I'm not afraid of shit as much as I was when I was trucking, you know, and the anxiety levels definitely are lower. I'd say that that's part of the contributing factor for it. So, thank you, 7David9, for some more Tutti fucking fruity. Tutti fucking fruity and shit. You guys have been very generous on this today's show. I gotta say I appreciate it. Test Monkey 13A. I lived out of 2 duffel bags all my single life. Well, there you go. Then you're ahead of the game. You're already living it. But the question is, did you do the other part of the formula? Are you happy with the time you spend working to support that lifestyle? If you're already there, you're already there. You know, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying this is for everyone. And by all means, some of you have jobs you love that make shit tons of money and you buy all kinds of shit. I would probably evaluate lifestyle still. I would probably evaluate how you spend your time, because there might become a point in your life where you're going to wish you did something different. You know, where if you're spending all your money on shit and you know, time sinks that really don't bring you contentment and fulfillment, you know, you got to think about that. You should, at the very least, even if you make no changes, you should evaluate your value system. You should evaluate how, you know, your lifestyle. Is it that great? Is it good? Do you enjoy it? And if the answer to those questions are yes, then you don't have to do any of this. This is a tool for someone who doesn't have a lot of options, you know, that maybe wants to, you know, has a dream they want to pursue. This is a way to pursue that dream, you know, and have the time necessary, because pursuing a dream, you have to A, learn and study and practice, and then you have to apply it. And in order to do that, you need the time available to do that. And if you're working fucking 40 to 70 hours a week doing some shit that isn't quite what you want to do, you don't even have time to learn new skill sets, to learn new things. I'm always looking for the next income stream, because I know that one of my income streams is going to go to shit. Sooner or later, my car might break down and Uber's gone. You know, YouTube might completely wipe me from existence. Google might say, fuck you. You know, I might do a bad photo shoot sometime and somebody would be like, I don't want that fucker. And then I get no clients anymore. You know, there's all of these things that I know aren't forever. So I'm always learning a new skill. Videography is the latest one I've been focused on. I also learned poker quite a bit, because that could turn into an income stream if I ever stop sucking at it. But if not, it's still, I enjoy doing it. It's fun. You know, I play in cheap-ass $15 tournaments. I'm not going to set the world on fire. But I enjoy it, and it's very social, too. And it's really interesting, the characters you run into there. So these are all things I enjoy doing. I have time to do them. And the reason I have time to do them is because I'm not giving all my time away to the trucking industry or any other job that takes up more than 40 hours a week. I think everybody should be able to get by and would have a much happier life if they only worked 3 or 4 days a week. I would lean towards 3 days a week. 3 full, solid, fuck you days. And then the rest of your week is yours to do as you please. Maybe you have a, you know, side gig or something, or the gig economy's there. If you want to deliver groceries, you can deliver groceries. You want to deliver pizza, that's always been around. You can do that. You want to go bartend and, you know, do whatever. You know, maybe you want to do ride share in your spare time. These are all things that you can do. But you should have one job that's part-time somewhere in there that's stable, that you'll know you'll always have that income coming in. So that's the thing. You lost me. It looks like everything's hold on. I would try, hold on, I'm gonna put this on here, refresh. If you ever have problems with the stream, go ahead and just refresh your browser and it should work. Not sure what the problem is there. I'm seeing the stream just fine on my end, so, and I do a feedback loop. So welcome back, Sam. All right, let's get back to this video and finishing it out.
Where I work now at the grocery store, it's you might think it's, you know,
vegan heaven,
boring or mind-numbing, but actually I'm on my feet all day. I'm running around dealing with customers and talking to people. And
all right, Dave just made another good point. And by all means, feel free in the chat. This is a live stream, so we are here to discuss it. Dave 101, finding a boyfriend or girlfriend willing to deal with that lifestyle, rare unless they are also minimalist. And that is true. But I see it all the time out there. There's somebody out there that has the same values. And if they don't have the same values as you do, is it right to change your values to conform to their opinion? Are you getting a return on that investment? And that's a risky investment. If you look at the track record for most relationships, you know, there's not a lot of 20-year relationships when I talk to people. You know, there's some. But, 4, 2 is the average. When I ask somebody how long they've been together, it's 2 years. And I ask that as a Uber driver sometimes, and that's the answer I get. Oh, we've been there together 2 years, or 5 years if you're really a trooper. So, is it worth giving up your life? No. It's in a relationship, you want somebody that's compatible, that has the same values, that shares the same beliefs that you do. And for me, if I was going to be in a relationship, and it's not a goal, by the way, for me. I don't try. I don't work on it. I'm not on fucking dating apps. I'm not out at the bar trying to pick anyone up. I just go there to work, and I go there to hang out with friends, and that's pretty much all I do, because I'm not looking for a relationship. But that being said, I do know that if I do pursue a relationship, she's probably going to have to like the outdoors, because I do a lot of that. She's going to have to be 100% okay with how I live my life, the things I do professionally, the fact that I don't make a lot of money, and the fact that I'm going to go out and do these trips that I may be away for here and there, and hopefully she could go with. She's going to have to like living in small spaces if we ever live together. These are all things that I would go into before I started the relationship. I would be like, look, this is the requirements for this to progress beyond friendship. And if you're okay with that, and you'll find out pretty quick if they're not, then we can go forward. If you're not, then we'll just be friends. And that's it. That's how I look at it. I spent so many years of my life with that value, that I have to have a romantic relationship. It is the key to happiness. I must have the house with the picket fence and a dog, and I've stepped so far away from that paradigm. Now granted, I probably got stabbed in the heart a few times along the way, and that caused me to be a little more, averse to putting my happiness eggs in the relationship basket. But I do know that I've experienced way more contentment and happiness regardless of my relationship status since I started doing this. And I've been in a relationship briefly since I made this decision. And now I'm pretty good. It's not a thing for me. I got great friends. Yeah, I don't get laid as often. I don't really care. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. But some people, that's their thing. Sam Keto Few, there's a 90% chance that if you're 40 and never married, that you'll never get married. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I definitely think marriage is a bad bet. And I speak a little of experience there. That's, it's a bad bet. Because you're basically making that bet that your marriage is going to last forever. And if you're lucky, you'll win. But it's, this is me, the poker player in me is coming out. The reason it's a bad bet is, statistically speaking, 60% of marriages fail. And I've noticed in my generation in particular that just dating relationships don't last that long, let alone signing a contract for half of your financial equity to a person who probably doesn't really like the way you are anyway, and then you fucking end up divorced and you lose half your fucking, not to mention the time that you lose, because you're essentially, if it doesn't work out, then all of that time you put in wasn't worth the effort. I will probably not get married, which is another reason I'm probably not going to be in a relationship, because I'm not willing to compromise on that. If someone wants to spend their life with me, they have to do so of their own free will without a binding contract. That's my opinion. I'm not talking shit if you're married, and if you're successfully married, that's all the more power to you. It doesn't work out for everybody. I'll just put it that way, and that's where I stand on it. Could my mind be changed by some woman that walks into my life and fucks up my whole value system? Absolutely, that's a possibility. I haven't ruled that out. But The likelihood of that happening, especially since I'm a minimalist, especially since I pretty much am a gig economy worker that works all these little income streams and part-time in a bar, I'm not a very attractive catch to certain kinds of women. And that's not going to change. And you know what? I'm not going to change. And if they don't like me the way I am, then all right, see yous. That's how I live my life now. I'm in the I don't give a fuck part of my life. I don't. There's more important shit I want to do. A relationship would be nice sometimes. Sometimes it's nice to have that companionship, but it's not the end all be all for me anymore. It's not, my life driving goal. If I'm single for the rest of my life, it's not going to be, I'm still fine. I'm still more content than I ever was. I'm more happy than I ever was. For the most part. Do I have my moments? There's moments where I'm like, yeah, this, kind of sucks, but it passes. Whereas before, when I was in that relationship mode, I would have these devastating moments. Moments of pure hell. Pain and suffering that I can't even fucking describe to you as occurred during some of my relationships. That is not something that I really want to experience again, or even take the chance, the, highly likely chance, the 60% chance that that's going to happen again if I make that bet. It's a losing bet. Granted, you could win, but I made the bet a lot in my life, and the more often you play in a bet like that, the more you lose. That's kind of my thoughts on that. Paul Bain Jr. My son's wife is the opposite. She has to have a $4,000 wedding ring. They are still making payments on it. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. And I gotta say, as a photographer, the amount of money people spend on weddings and then get divorced. Like, I've worked a few weddings where they're already divorced. I worked a wedding where I'm pretty sure they paid $55,000 for the wedding. Somebody did. I don't know who the fuck did. They divorced less than a year later. Talk about wasting time. That's, if somebody was able to put up with all my bullshit and they talked me into getting married again, they would have to be totally okay. We're going to the fucking, I know a guy who's an ordained motherfucker. He, I will pay him $100 and then we'll make it happen. We'll bring some friends, hang out, have fun, maybe go camping doing it, something like that. That's my wedding if it ever happens. I am not gonna spend that kind of money on that shit. That's fucking bullshit to spend that kind of money on a wedding, or a ring for that matter. You don't need a ring to really, I'm not saying don't have a ring. I'm saying you don't need the biggest, fanciest fucking car that you're wearing on your fucking hand for someone to realize that you're into them, or that you give a shit about them, or that you love them. These are not things that... that's another sign of our fucked up value system. This fucked up value system where your marriage success is based on the value of the fucking rock on your hand. Sorry, you triggered me a little bit with that one. These things happen. But yeah, and they're making payments on it. So instead of $4,000 for that ring, they're probably paying more like $5,000 or $6,000, depending on the interest rate, and depending on whether or not they're paying minimum payments or they're paying it off. Fuck that shit. Look at the enslavement that happens there. They're in debt for a thing that's on their hand, which ultimately just tells other people that you're fucking married. You could get a cheap-ass fucking $100 wedding ring. Even that's probably pricey in my book. Some people get the tattoo thing. I approve that, but that's still kind of a permanent investment. But still, this is just to let people know that you're taken. But we still care about what other people think. We gotta prove something to someone. Oh, look what my husband got me. He got me $4,000. And somehow, everyone around them is supposed to admire that. I just look at that as a poor life choice. Like, if someone showed me their $4,000 wedding ring, oh, look what he got me. to me, it just announces to me that you don't value significant things. You value materials and things that do not bring you pleasure and contentment. And guess what? 60% of cases, you're going to be turning that ring into the fucking pawn shop at some point. It's that's my thoughts on that. Thanks for triggering me, though. That was fucking great. Test Monkey 13A in the house and normally wins, but I still play. That is a true story. Yep. And when you play on those bad bets, the house is going to make a profit. So, that is definitely a 100% metaphor for marriage. It's like going and playing slot machines in the casino. It's exactly. You probably got better odds of fucking winning in the casino. I think that's only like a 5%, 6% edge, 15% on some slots. That's a better bet than marriage. Oh, shit. Marriage, you're going to lose 60% of the time. Yeah, that's a 10% edge. House, roulette, I think, is 7% edge? Yeah, if we're talking in gambling terms. Let's see. Dave 101, it's all about the Facebook glory. Yeah, and I'm so done with that. Like, I haven't looked at Facebook yet this week, and I need to, just to keep up with some of the friends that are addicted on there. But, it is what it is. So, let's get back to the story here. We're going to wrap this up. We're at an hour and a half, which is a little long on YouTube standards. I want to thank all of you. This has been a successful stream for 22 of you watching. I appreciate that.
I actually leave work feeling invigorated and energized. So once I downsized to a smaller space, that's when you realize,
got a bigger bed than me.
Oh my God, I have a lot of stuff. And to me, having a lot of clutter in your physical space, to me, it makes me have clutter.
Thanks, Mr. Humpty.
A lot of stuff.
We gotta let it play out, because I can't turn down the Tutti fucking Fruity. Thanks, Miss Wing. Test Monkey, been fun. You're giving some good advice. Stats don't lie. Thank you, Test Monkey. And if you're leaving, glad to have you here.
I gave stuff away. I put stuff away in storage. Living in a small space in my bachelor apartment, you're forced to.
I would go away with the storage part.
Live simply.
Although that is a way to keep some of your shit and not have. It is cheaper per square foot for a storage unit than it is for a house. So if you think about it, if you got a lot of shit that's just sitting around in your house, could you go to a smaller living situation and just put that shit in storage if you absolutely couldn't part with it? Might be something to think about. Efficiency is key.
You're forced to be more organized and just to be clutter-free. Of course, this is not the solution for everyone. It doesn't mean.
And I'm not saying it's the solution for everyone either. It's really a subjective question.
If you do what I did, that you're going to be happy. That's not what I'm saying at all. I still have problems. I still have challenges. That doesn't go away.
And he's right. That doesn't go away. You're still going to have pitfalls. I've had a few.
But if there's something that you can change in your life and that's going to make you happier, you should do it.
And, without finishing, that's one of the things that you need to, take into account with this strategy is, you're not going to achieve perfection. But you can probably improve your life. Do you want to improve your life? Are you happy with your life? If the answer to that is no, these are things that you can start applying that will, in my opinion, almost always increase your happiness level. And it involves a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, logical thinking, a lot of evaluating yourself and being self-aware enough to say that, this isn't right or that isn't right. And I do that all the time. And there's things I'm still working on that are going to take me a while to resolve. But it's evaluating your life, your happiness level, your contentment level, your pleasure level. And if your pleasure level is way up here, as in you're constantly doing hedonic activities to spike the dopamine, whether it's, binge eating or, drinking or gambling or, you know, whatever dopamine activity you partake in, if you're finding that you're relying on that to get you through, instead of just, you know, kind of being able to chill in a chair next to a lake, or, you know, or just even if you're a downtown people watcher type, you could just go hang out somewhere. It doesn't spend any money at all. You just can be entertained by people's bullshit. You know, these are all things, you know, and if you get more contentment out of doing that, where you're just like, I'm here in front of this campfire in the woods. That's for me. I enjoy that. And you don't think about it. You know, you're just like, you know, a buddy of mine, he just had his birthday. And everyone asked him what he wanted to do on his birthday, and he wanted to go we went to Split Rock, that place that you see me adventure in quite often because it's free, it's nearby, and I can have a little peace, because there's not a shit ton of people. There's some people, but not like a park here. You know, we went there and we had ourselves a little fire on the edge of a cliff. They climbed and did all kinds of stupid shit that could have caused bodily injury, but it's a memory that I'm sure he will cherish, and he knew that that was more important than, say, going to the bar and drinking your face off the whole night, or, you know, having a meaningful experience is way better for your happiness level than a momentary hedonic pleasure spike that you would get. Those almost always don't pan out in terms of that. And if he's watching, he knows what I'm talking about. But I do believe that was a great choice for him. I wish I'd have done that on some of my birthdays, where I was drinking my face off. And I don't even remember my 40th birthday back when I had that. Yep. That was a bad life choice. I was in a relationship at the time too, and it didn't fly very well the way I spent that. So yeah, anyways, do I want to get to this other video? Do we even have time?
Hello, fam bam.
All right. Well, I'm going to react to this one. I'm not going to watch the full video, but we'll see. I have not watched this ahead of time, so this is a 100% reaction. So, and I do that here on DLIVE. For those of you who just joined me from YouTube, I like to do reaction streams. You're not always going to hear about them, because sometimes it's just me watching shit and talking shit, and that's what I do. So anyways, let's get into this. This is MJ Gordon. I am not a subscriber. It popped up in my feed when I searched, and let's see how YouTube algorithm
Welcome back.
does.
It's Friday, and today I wanted to do a Freedom Friday since we haven't done one in a while, and I really wanted to share with you guys.
Notice the hint on freedom there.
How minimalism helped me quit my job forever.
That's extreme. I don't know if I'm sleeping on the fucking floor. I mean, I can sleep in a vehicle on a pad, a sleeping pad at least. I got my little sleeping pad for when I backpack. But doing it all the time? I don't know. Maybe I should. Should I give up the fold-out couch, you think? Maybe?
There are many different definitions when it comes to quitting. For myself, I just wanted to learn how to be my own boss, start my own business, and wake up when I want, work when I want, answer to whoever I wanted, and not have a ceiling
Check. I've done all of that.
or a cap to my income. So starting at a very young age, I had big dreams of
Oh, and that's not to say you're going to be broke, too. Maybe the passion project you pick, the thing that you want to do, that you want to spend your time, some of those, there's no income limit on that. If you're good enough at what you do and you enjoy doing it, you could potentially outpace your previous income. And if your lifestyle is like hers is right there, you're looking at a pretty comfortable life going forward. And definitely looking at freedom and being able to do the things you want to do. So don't just think that you're going to have to go to Walmart and work part-time to make this happen. What are your skills? What skills would you like to acquire? You might not have the skill yet, but do you have the time to learn it? Do you have the time to practice? And if you get enough time to learn and practice, you can get to the point where your passion can make you At least some, if not a fuck ton of money. And there's some very successful people that have done so. You know? That's something to think about. What have you been wanting to do with your life? Have you taken the time necessary to pursue it? And that's the time to learn it, the time to practice it. You know, doing it for free for a while, to, you know, if it's a business endeavor, offer your services to somebody that, you know, for the experience. It's called interning. But it's a good way to start a business, is to do free shit for people. People like free shit. And if you're good enough at it, and they'll start asking you to do it. And when they start asking you to do it, you can start asking them for money. That's how it works. That's how you get off the ground. You know, that's my opinion. Shit.
Of just wanting to be self-employed, wanting to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. And I realized looking back that minimalism, or the act of choosing what adds value and keeping that in your life, and then eliminating all the things that don't.
And that's the core of minimalism. That's the principle I've been talking about.
Something that was very crucial and helpful to actually achieving that goal really early on in my life. And this was before the coin term minimalism ever came about. It was just a habit or something that made me different or weird at that time.
I was late to the party.
But thankfully, it led me on the path that I wanted to be on.
But thankfully, I got out of debt before I discovered minimalism.
So minimalism helped me in 6 main areas. The first area is that I had 0 debt. When you have debt, it is a trap.
Check. Let's see, we went over that, so we don't need to regurgitate that.
Up with the trends, or trying to throw big parties, or make it.
Yeah, and basically she's saying, we're skipping through because, you know, you can go watch the whole video. Just search MJ Gordon and how minimalism helped me quit my job, or just, you know, watch these types of videos.
The next travel destination, I had a little bit of a buffer and some savings. I had started cost of living, because
that's the important one. We went over that, so pretty much she's 100% in agreement. I'm just kind of skipping through, looking at the different areas. Where you live is the big factor in that low cost of living, and how much space you take up. Those are things. If you're taking up a lot of square footage, you're going to pay the price. If you're taking up very little, you'll be way more efficient. Way more efficient. Some people do van life and small houses and living in vehicles just to save the money to do this, because that's the only way they can save the money to do this. And then they find they like it and they keep doing it. I've seen that too. I totally would live in a vehicle. I almost did at one point. So, and I do it. Might do it in the future. I don't know. You know, maybe I'll fall in love with one of these road trips and be like, I just want to do this all the time. It's a possibility. I'm not in a position to do that right now, because I do have things I value in my local area. But it's not to say that there won't be little forays of me living in the vehicle going across the country. It's definitely happening this year, a couple months later in the year. I'll get into it when the time comes.
Wanting to do 1,000 different things and heading in 1,000 different directions, not knowing where we want to go. And it's okay to not know.
And set goals. That's what she gets to there. So we're getting through. I'm just going to skip through each one of these here. Let's see. Yeah.
Area where minimalism helped me was in having flexibility. And this was a lot.
That is definitely 100% a benefit of experience, flexible options.
A lot to do with mindset or perspective. When you're practicing taking the things and keeping what adds value in your life, it makes everything feel so abundant without having to have this high standard of living or high expectations out of life.
Yeah, and you need to apply it in terms of what your purchases, what you do spend your money on. You should always be applying that. Is this giving me a return for the time I invested in making the money? And that's different for everyone, because people get different amounts of money for the time they invest. That's the other thing to consider. If you have a high-paying job that there's a low time requirement, then you don't have to worry so much. But if you're literally scraping together $15 to $20 an hour, sometimes $10 an hour, sometimes $5 an hour, YouTube, and you're really trying to pull that, these things in, then you might really be thinking, is this worth it? If I have to work 5 hours to make this happen, is this worth that 5 hours of my life? And it really does start to restructure your values. It'll make you think. As long as you're able to be honest with yourself and ask yourself this question whenever you're tempted on something, you should be able to answer this question. Should I do this? Is this worth it? Is the payoff worth it? That's how to kind of evaluate your goals and to figure out what you want to do.
For moments in business where I had to make some crazy choices, like, do I go back to a job or can I hack it living out of my car for a little bit? And those decisions helped me not only be motivated to really improve and get the job done, but to really feel even more appreciation and even more understanding that you don't really have to have a bunch of stuff to be happy or to feel like you're surviving. For those
Now, it's also subjective. She might have very little value on material possessions. Sorry, losing my voice a little. Water time. But do I think that this, a lot of people, this is kind of a cliched look that's going on with the stuff there, but she values whatever she has, and she apparently doesn't have a lot of values for materials, more on the experience side. And that's something to think about. What do you value? What's important to you? And if you're not getting what's important to you right now, I feel like I should be full screen for this. But yeah, check out that channel. I'm actually going to toss her a subscribe. So that was a good video, I think. But let me, it's a matter of coming up with something to value. What do you value? And does it really have the effect on you think it will? That's the question. So come up with a goal and try it out. It's not always going to work out. Sometimes you're going to come up with shit and it didn't work out right. Then you move on to the next one. But coming up with a goal and feeling where you're at in terms of satisfaction, in terms of happiness, in terms of contentment. That's important. Alright, so now we got somebody I gotta fucking deal with here. Hold on. Delete and mute. Alright. Sorry, I had to kick somebody who was being shithead. Alright. Have fun making your next account. That was my first troll, ladies and gentlemen. That's the first person I've had to get rid of. No problem, because I don't want to put up with your shit during my video. Anyways, so that's that. And I think we're done with this podcast today. So if you like this video, if you're watching on YouTube and you want me to spend time making more videos, you can head to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and leave a tip in the virtual tip jar. And I will make more videos. Like I said, if I get a $20-ish, whether it's spread out over a bunch of people or one person does it, I will make a video. That'll be my threshold to take time away from my other income streams to make videos. But don't panic. Even if you don't want to contribute, you don't want to tip, you don't want to do any of that shit, I'll still make videos. It'll be my thing. But that'll be more of when it's convenient for me or when I have some spare time. When I'm not spending as much time pursuing my current goals, and that's to be able to travel more and get out more. So I'm working on it. We'll see. I'm also developing some other skills. I'll talk more about them once they've developed, or once they fail to develop, and we'll get there. So keep following me here on DLIVE. Thanks to those of you who followed me today. Thanks for all of you who contributed Lino to this live stream. I appreciate it. To those of you who have continued to follow me and support me and really want to see my content, I'm glad that I was able to continue to produce content, and I will continue to do this because I do value this, and I do think that sometimes some of my failures have helped other people succeed. So I think we'll continue to share this journey and shit, or just hang out together and be friends. We's all friends here, right? Blue Jay 77, all the best. Thank you. So I'm gonna say that I'm not a fucking expert, so don't quit your job based on some shit I said. Do your homework. I'm just an asshole who got fed up with 14 years in the grind and did something about it, and have no regrets on what I did on that. There's things I've done since that I probably would do differently now that I know, but we all got life lessons to learn. So if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I don't know if that shit works still, but maybe, YouTube algorithms will be happy if you do that and, comment and interact and shit. I still read my comments. I haven't completely abandoned YouTube. I'm just pissed off at them at the moment. Do all of that. And also follow me on minds.com, because that's my social media platform of choice. I post there. So if you want to hang out, there's a good place to go. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. You know what? And if I get more than $20 for the next video, I promise to not wear my fucking bathrobe during it. I'll actually get dressed before I turn the camera on. More than that, and I'll fucking take the camera out into the world again, in case you want to see that shit. Alright, that's it. Have a nice motherfucking day. And